Podcast City Network. Hey fans, you're listening to the Chris Carnage Show. Hey fans, this is your very own Chris Carnage of the Chris Carnage Show, only on the Podcast City Network, and we are here live on Twitch and on podcastcity.net. And I tell you what, we have a great show in store tonight, so definitely make sure that you stay tuned for the entirety of this because there's so much going on and so much that's going to be talked about. But we must get to the most important person I have on this show other than me. The one, the only, Shawn Phoenix. How are you, bud?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I know it's a little bit cold here. I know it's even colder there. So how bad is it there right now?
Surprisingly not too bad. It's more rainy than anything. I only like winter in December. Like I like the snow around the Christmas lights. I feel like feeling the Christmas spirit, but it doesn't really feel like that. It just feels like fall. It kind of sucks.
I know what you mean. It rained for days and days here, but you know what? Now it's all kind of blown away, but now we get our little Florida winter, and, we'll see what happens. But, man, it's great to have you on the show, especially for the first episode back for the Chris Carnage Show. I've been gone for a while just because, I went and was working on a lot of different things with our network, so, we had to see what happened. But there's a lot of good stuff that we're getting done here. Oh, looks like we lost our guest here, so give us just a moment. We'll definitely get him back on. But like I was saying, though, a lot of great things that we had going for the network that I've been working on. I've been away for a little while, but the Chris Carnage Show is back. So definitely make sure that you check us out and stay with us for the entirety of this. But I think we just got back somebody.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and blame the weather, too, because that's the only thing that makes sense around here. So, right. But how you doing, bud? I've heard you've had quite a time these past few months.
Oh, that's one way to sum it up.
Well, first things first, before we get to all of that, though, you've been wrestling a really long time. I've known you a really long time. I think we met, I think it has to be damn near 10 years ago now, but...
Yeah, it's close to it, if not.
Definitely. But officially, though, when did you start wrestling?
Professionally or on the underground?
We'll say professionally.
Professionally, I had my first match January 30th, 2016. I started training. I had a little bit of training whenever I was in high school, around 2007 or 8. I trained with IWC, the same trainer that trained Elias on WWE. Trained Facade, but I couldn't really afford it. They broke high school students, so, you still there?
Still here.
Okay, your screen froze, I got scared.
No, I'm just very good at staying very still.
Well, that's very good, because your lips aren't moving at all. You are 100% frozen on my screen. So I couldn't really afford it, so I couldn't continue. Dabbled in the underground for a little bit, and then started training with my current trainer Brandon K. Crusher Hansen at PWX. They also trained Kurt Angle before Kurt Angle went to OVW. Trained Corey Graves. Local veterans. Started training in August of 2015. Debuted in January. Really quick time. I thought I'd be training for about a year before my first match, so I was very thankful that it went by pretty quickly.
Very nice, very nice. Now, in that time, though, you've obviously gained a lot of different experiences, just with time comes experience. So with that also comes championships. I know you've won a few.
Yeah, surprisingly, not as many as I hoped for. My first match, or my first championship rather, was the PWX Tag Team Championship with the Reverend Ron Hunt. That had about a month shelf life, but it was cool. It was definitely it was a surprise, and then became the Poser Champion, Poser Wrestling, out of Dayton, Ohio. Really fun company. Think comic book. We have some really wacky characters, really wacky concepts, and it's the most fun I've ever had. So I was the first champion there. Still technically the champion. I haven't really been defeated for it, but there's some intergalactic things going on where I'm currently not the champion. They have a weekly channel on YouTube, so I highly, if you like silliness, highly encourage people to check that out. Really niche product, so some people may not like it. And then I became the SWO Uprising champion. I want to say back in August, and that was cool. Unfortunately, that lasted about a month and a half, but still really cool. Like I was starting to really gain some traction. It seemed like with these championships. It's always nice to leave the show with my gear bag a little bit heavier.
Definitely can't go wrong with that, especially when you officially have the hardware. Now, hopefully, though, we can get you back in the ring at some point in the future and maybe reclaim you a few more. But I know recently you had a little tumble. Some things happen.
Yeah, I hurt my thumb.
I know, that's always stinks, especially when you hurt your thumb, because you never realize how much you use it until you hurt it.
Oh my god, you have no idea. Like texting is the absolute worst. I have to like an old man. But I received this injury during doing a 450 off the top turnbuckle through a table on the outside. I also had some other injuries that you may have heard of. I broke my skull. I was bleeding in my brain, which is the scientific term of subdural hematoma. I broke the bone behind my ear, which fractured into my inner ear, and I now can no longer hear out of that ear. As you can see, I only have one headphone in. It'd be pointless to have the other. Was also leaking spinal fluid from said ear, which was very concerning whenever I was in the hospital. If they actually had to put a catheter in my spine, which was an unbearable pain. They gave me 6 injections so I wouldn't feel it, and I still felt every second of it. And had that not worked, I would have needed brain surgery right then and there. So thankfully, I avoided that. The day before I was supposed to be released from the hospital, the left side of my face went paralyzed, which was very scary because I thought it could have been a stroke, could have been anything. So I had got another CT scan, and they told me that basically this isn't uncommon. There's a nerve, and I just found this out last week. I had physical therapy for this last Wednesday. So there's a nerve that starts at the base of the skull that goes to the ear and then kind of lightning bolts across the face. Now, because I broke this bone, the swelling really stressed out that nerve, and it kind of went into sleepy mode there for a little bit. It was very weird because I could feel everything. They were testing me. They're like, can you feel this? Can you feel this? I could feel everything. I just couldn't move it. It was the most bizarre sensation I ever experienced. But thankfully, I'm at 92% as rated by my doctor. They gave me some physical therapy that I have to do. Very simple stuff, smiling for 10 seconds, whistling for 10 seconds. They also had me test if I could blow up a balloon. And if you don't mind, I'm going to try and do that right now.
By all means.
So we're getting there. The issue is the right side of the face works perfectly. Left side is a little bit lazy, so the air is leaking out on the left side. So I have to try that. I have to hold that for about 20 seconds, but I'm getting there. I couldn't even blow up a balloon last Wednesday. As you see, I inflated it a little bit. I had a little concussion, which was my main concern. Obviously, head trauma is not something to sneeze out, and especially knowing that my brain was bleeding, I didn't know how that would affect a concussion. I also have some previous concussions under my belt, so that really worried me too. And I know, well, like, it was really weird because I was on the top rope, and I remember getting ready to jump, and the next thing I know, I'm waking up on the floor. I knew I was hurt. I didn't know what happened. And I saw the footage, and I kept saying, what happened? What happened? And everyone would tell me, but I wasn't comprehending it. Now, that being said, when I was being stretchered away, I thought to myself, do I do the athlete thumbs up to let the fans know that I'm okay? But I remember thinking, well, that's kind of lame, just thumbs up, But I wanted to show them that I was okay, so I did the rock on. I felt, yeah, that's more my style.
I remember seeing that picture of them from the other opposite ringside. You just putting it up.
Right. How funny is that? That like I wanted to let the fans know I was okay, but I also didn't want to hurt my image. So from that point on, I kind of was comprehending everything. They put me in an ambulance. Ambulance ride was very quick, which is, I don't know if I was in and out of consciousness. I later found out they only drove me half a mile away to a local school. They took me out of the ambulance, and they loaded me into a helicopter. And I remember it was very, very cold because I only had my trunks on. And they put me in the helicopter, and at that point, it seemed like we were at the hospital in like a minute. It was crazy. When I was in the hospital, they kept asking me, like, do you know where you are? Do you know what day it is? And I said, yeah, it's October 6th. I'm at a hospital. I didn't know which one. I was wrestling, and then I was also thinking about the whole match. I'm like, okay, the match started like this. This was next, and I was able to place everything. So I knew that I didn't have a massive concussion, which was a huge sigh of relief.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, then after I got a CT scan, the doctor told me that I broke my skull and, how bad the injury was, and I didn't believe him. I just knew I was hurting. My head was really hurting, but I didn't believe him. Then I stayed there that night, and I remember I was in such incredible pain, and I remember thinking to myself, this is the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. But I wasn't upset about it, because the next thought was, whenever somebody asks me what the worst pain is, I have to say this moment. Like, because so many people always ask me, they always ask me, what's the worst pain you've ever been in? I'm like, I don't know. Or even like tattoos. How did that feel? I don't remember. But like, I had to make a chapter. Like, this was the worst pain I've ever been in. I remember like sitting up and the room was spinning. I remember like I couldn't really walk on my own. But that being said, I knew where I was. I knew my name. I knew everything like that. So I didn't really get too upset or scared. I knew my brain was going to stop bleeding because I got another CT scan and I was good. I knew a broken skull could heal. But a concussion is very tricky. It could come up and haunt you a month after. It could, like be terrible. But that being said, the one thing I was the most confident in was this wasn't a bad concussion. So I was like, okay, we're going to beat this and I'm going to be better. I was in the hospital. They did the catheter and all that. And they told me that I was probably going to be in the hospital for about a month. And I said, well, if that's what needs done, I mean, it sucks, but that's what I have to do. Then the next day, it came, okay, well, maybe you're only going to be here for a couple weeks. And then the next day, probably only going to be a week. And then the next day was, oh, you're probably going to be out of here within a week. So good. And then they told me, after I was done with this hospital, they were going to transfer me to another hospital where I was going to do inpatient physical therapy for the concussion because they weren't comfortable and confident of me being on my own.
Right. I'm
like, okay, well, that's not a big deal. Like, I've already been in this hospital for 5 days. What's another week going to be about it? Then they were also telling me, well, when you're in there, you're probably going to be in that hospital for about 10 days. And then it went down to, you're probably going to be in there for about 5 days. And I completely skipped that whole process. So that's when I really knew that I'm okay.
Right.
My mother was upset. She's like, well, you're not okay. You are really hurt. You are deaf in your left ear. Like, you're not okay. But that being said, like, this could have been so much worse. Absolutely. Like, just knowing that the rate that I was improving and knowing the other possible outcomes, whether it be brain damage, whether it be, a massive concussion, whether it be, I'm so fortunate that I can read, I can speak, I can write, I can do pretty much everything. I have my current issue is I have a little bit of vertigo still, but that's nothing, because it could have been so much worse. And I was positive during this whole thing. This isn't my first brush with death. I actually almost died at a concert. Long story short, I fell down and got trampled on and was trapped and couldn't breathe and went unconscious.
I remember you telling me about that a while ago.
Yeah. From that day on, I've been very thankful to be alive, and this made it so much more real that I knew that this was bad whenever they were taking me in the helicopter. My parents are paramedics. I know it's bad if you're in an ambulance and the lights are on, because they're rushing someone to the hospital. If they're in a helicopter, you're really bad. So that's how I knew the severity of this. And I was also throwing up blood because I broke the thing in my ear, and it was just going down to my stomach. So I knew I was bad. But knowing that I was okay was such a sigh of relief, and I was so thankful. Then it also got to the point where, okay, let's start thinking positive. When am I going to come back? What am I going to do? How are we going to do this? How's this going to look? And I really focused on all the positivity and stuff to look forward to once I got out. And I told myself, even though I was getting headaches, incredible headaches, and they were giving me painkillers, and I don't really like painkillers. I'll take them if I need them.
I'm the same
way. Whether I get surgery, but they really don't work for me.
Yeah.
So I really don't take them. So they gave me an oxycodone, and I ended up just throwing up because I also had no appetite. So the next day they gave me another one, and I threw up again. So at that point they started giving me injections of painkillers, and I remember it was the first time in near 15, 20 years that I had no pain in my body. It was amazing, and it's very scary because now I can see why people get addicted to that stuff. But then the headaches started getting to be a little bit better, and I told myself, I'm going to be in the ring by November. That's my goal. I'm not saying I'm going to be wrestling in November, but I'm going to be in the ring doing something in November. So that was a goal, and the thought process was, a doctor hadn't told me at that point what the timetable was. So it was really up to me, I felt like. And then on the other side of things, if that didn't happen, well, at least I can rationalize with myself. Oh, yeah, November was unrealistic anyway. No way would I be in the ring. That being said, I did start doing some physical therapy in the ring in November, and it felt great. Also, the doctors told me when I got released from the hospital, they want me to get back into the ring as soon as possible to make sure there wasn't any PTSD. And I said, you don't have to tell me twice. So I got released on a Friday and got home, laid down, because also with the catheter in my spine, I had to sleep at a 45-degree angle. And I sleep on my chest, and I couldn't do that even before the catheter because I had all the electrodes.
Yeah.
And then at that point, when I had to sleep, my sleep schedule was terrible. So I tried taking a nap. That didn't work. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll take a shower and just relax. So I took a shower, and I was like, all right, you know what? It's Friday. There's open ring. Let's go. And I had my dad drive me, and I got into the ring, and it was actually hard not to do more. I felt at home, I didn't go to the top rope, but I didn't have any problems getting into the ring. And I wanted to run the ropes, and I wanted to roll. But I knew that I couldn't, and that really sucked. So by November, doing physical therapy for concussion stuff, they told me, yeah, we want you to start pushing yourself. It felt good. It felt really good. I still am experiencing some dizziness, and I actually just had physical therapy a couple days ago, and we are now at the point where they want me to really, really push myself, and if I get dizzy, fight through it.
Right.
Unless if I wake up the next day feeling terrible, then I know I went too far. But a little bit of dizziness, that's nothing. Just fight through it, because this is how we have to rebuild. So I'm like, all right, cool. So
yeah,
good news.
But the big thing I've seen too, because I follow you on Facebook and Twitter, and like to see what kind of progress you make, and you've seen a lot of different kinds of specialists, and I think even including the one that helped Daniel Bryan when he was having his concussion issues. Have these different specialists been able to help you really progress through this more, or do you think it's been more you being able to just be able to bounce back from this kind of an injury?
Well, it's definitely, they're definitely specialists for a reason. So the physical therapy and stuff like that, teaching, giving me these exercises to do and doing them have definitely helped tremendously. But I also think the power of positivity, as lame as it sounds, really helps because, like I said, just being in the hospital, how quickly I tried snapping, but I couldn't. How quickly I improved within a week, not without doing anything, is remarkable. And then with my facial paralysis, when I went and saw the physical therapist for that, he examined me and he said, "I don't think you need me." But then he did examine me and saw that I wasn't 100%, so he did give me some exercises. But I was able to get full motion, 92% motion back in my face just on my own. I think that's incredible. I think it's a combination of both, really. The power of, not being defeated by this and wanting to improve and doing these exercises. They've helped me remarkably.
See, that's amazing, and that just shows that when you continue on through and you don't let it get you down, it definitely can make a difference. Because I know I've had my issues, especially when it's been concussions from playing football or when I had my massive spinal injury some years ago when I was wrestling. But it's good to see that you're still here, still vertical, still breathing, and still with us, most importantly. But one interesting thing, though, that I feel like has come out of all this is that now you're starting to kind of actually go viral because the video of you getting injured has now been starting to make its rounds on the social medias and, of course, on the deep parts of the interwebs. And some have had their thoughts on it. First off, though, what are your thoughts on it actually going viral?
So I knew this was incredible, what happened. And knowing that I felt so good that this wasn't going to be a sob story. So I wanted to get this footage out there. And also, one of the things that's really helped me throughout all this is you're getting the exclusive. We're going to be releasing a documentary. We've been working on a documentary about my recovery, recording doctors' appointments when we can, doing physical therapy, going to be sit-down interviews and stuff like that from people that experienced this as well as me. This was a tag match. There were 5 other people, me, my partner, my 2 opponents, and the referee, and then also the backstage hands, the doctor at ringside. So we've been working on this, and it's been nice being able to put a creative, have something to work towards. So we've been working on that, and I knew that this was incredible footage that we had. I record all my matches to learn from them, and I grew up with the Jackass generation, and if I get hurt, I want to see it, right?
Most definitely.
Because if I got hurt and there was no proof of it, then it feels like I got hurt for nothing.
Hey, like they
as
always
weird
say,
as that sounds.
No video didn't happen. So
exactly, and also, that's just the way society is. People like seeing car crashes, and especially with pro wrestling, with the availability and accessibility of all this professional wrestling, incredible professional wrestling that we have access to, whether it be New Japan, Mexico, 205 Live, NXT, it is so easy to see these incredible athletes. We've almost become desensitized because wrestling is great right now, and it is so easy. All it takes is, you do an incredible high spot, and it makes its rounds, and then that's it. People forget about it because, we're going to see something else the next day, and the next day, and the next day. But whenever somebody gets hurt, and whenever these high-risk maneuvers don't pay off, it's like that they have more longevity. And I'm a big believer of any publicity is good publicity. So selfishly, I knew this is gonna get people behind me. People are gonna know my story and know how I powered through this, and they're gonna join me on this journey. So I was excited for that. But also, I wanted it out there to make sure nobody else got hurt.
Definitely.
You always hear about, oh, wrestler got hurt in this state, wrestler got hurt in this country. Mm-hmm. But as far as like my friends, and Pittsburgh, this is the first major injury in Pittsburgh pro wrestling where the said performer can't even work their Clark Kent job. I'm not medically cleared to drive myself. This is a catastrophic injury. And I felt like, at the very least, my social circle needed to see how an injury can affect someone's daily life. Like I said, it's one thing to hear about it, to read about it, and yeah, it sucks whenever some kid you don't know gets hurt, because we're all brothers in this.
Definitely.
But to experience this firsthand, I feel like it opened a lot of eyes, and I knew if it could open a lot of my Pittsburgh friends' eyes to be more careful, then hopefully it can also help out, the world. I've been saying if one person can see my accident and learn from it and think, this is stupid, this kid's stupid, wow, he really got hurt, these risks are real, and prevent that person from doing said high-risk maneuver, that it's completely worth it.
Well, that actually brings me on to my next point, is that there's been a certain amount of reactions and things that have been said by notable people in the industry, including, Vince Russo, Jim Cornette, Vampiro, just to name a few. And I'm sure you've read them at this point. What are your reactions to those kinds of comments?
Everybody that has an opinion is completely entitled to their opinion, and everything that has been said is completely validated. Whether it be positive or negative, I'm completely okay with that. Yeah, what I did was incredibly stupid. I am completely aware of this. Yeah, what I did was a complete risk with little reward. Completely aware of this. However, I'm a natural risk taker. It's fun to me. However, this time it didn't pay off. That's okay. It was bound to happen. You can only tap dance in a lightning storm wearing a suit of armor and not get struck by lightning so many times before you eventually do. Like it was going to happen. It's a shame that it happened to the severity that it did, but a lot of these people, they're completely justified in saying these things. There's some people that are saying some things that I personally wouldn't say. If I were to see my clip from an outsider's perspective, I wouldn't immediately bash the person. I would check to make sure they're okay and then put my 2 cents in. But, different people, different approaches. The one thing that really upsets me is when people question my training, well, my trainer, rather. My trainer, Brandon K., completely 100% professional, best kept secret in Pittsburgh wrestling, was starting to get WWE offers at the time that he had his first son. So he chose his family life over his career, which is completely respectable, but that's why he's not a household name. So people don't know him, so it's easy to question him. Should this guy be training people? Wow, why would this guy do this high-risk maneuver with your training? Why would you let this happen? I'm a 27-year-old kid. I wasn't put up to this by my trainer. Like, I can make my own decisions. Brandon K is like a father to me. Crusher Hansen's like a father to me. All my trainers are like fathers to me. So that's the one thing that kind of bugs me, but it doesn't keep me up at night. I had one person, some random person say, "Oh, I look forward to your funeral." I flat out said, that's a terrible thing to say to a person. Merry Christmas.
Definitely. Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, well, I don't know this person. It's, the fans, the wrestling fans, wrestling critics, they don't bother me one bit. The professional veterans, they don't bother me at all. The fans bother me even less. And I was completely aware and prepared for this to happen. You see a clip out of context, and it's easy to label me as an asshole, a dumbass, a spot monkey, no psychology, not a good wrestler. It's so easy to do that. I get it. Vampiro immediately, he was like, this is stupid, this is crazy. I want to watch this kid wrestle before I make a judgment, which is so freaking respectable on his part.
Definitely. Just because not a lot of people reacted in that manner, such as Jim Cornette. Right.
But like I said, it takes a lot to really upset me. Like I said, this near-death incident didn't upset me at all. I never had a breakdown. I never really sat and cried my eyes out. I was so close to death, and I took it on with a smile the entire time. The only time I ever really broke down was seeing all the outpouring of love the day after the accident. It was just overwhelming. But I've never really allowed myself to become sad about this. So that being said, these people that say these things, they're not really affecting me one bit. Even Disco Inferno was the first person to cast some negativity. I thanked him for the time, thanked him for his concerns, and would love to wrestle Disco Inferno once I'm cleared. I feel like if he is so high and mighty to criticize my generation of professional wrestling, it would be wise for him to make a trip to Pittsburgh, maybe host a seminar, teach the younger generation, make some money off the seminar, and then have this anticipated match of young generation versus old generation. Neither of these guys like each other. He gets a little bit of spotlight, and he makes more money. You know, like, I'm completely. If he can make money off of my stupidity, let's do it, dude. Like, if we all benefit from this, great. So yeah, I read everything. It is so mind-blowing. I have my friends tagging me in everything. Anytime this video gets posted anywhere, my friends tag me in it. I went trending on Snapchat and I got sent that. It's so mind-blowing. But yeah, like, I read all these comments just because, like, this is so new to me. And if I can help teach these people, or like one person commented on my post saying like, oh, like, I'm an asshole, I'm never gonna learn, what an idiot, I should retire. And I messaged him, I commented and I said, you know, I have learned already, this was stupid, and he completely changed his tone. I have a reputation myself to live up to, and yeah, I don't care about the people, but if I can change these people's opinions about me as a whole in a professional and personal way, then I'm going to attempt to do that. I mean, I'm not doing anything anyway. So it literally takes like 2 minutes to say like, hey man, you know, like, I learned, I know what I did wrong. I'm not going to do this again. And maybe I win them over and get a new fan out of this to join me on the journey. So
yeah, you never know. But the big thing I see, no matter which side of the fence you may lay on when it comes to everybody's comments, everybody's viewpoints, it's going viral to the point where entities such as Fox News and the New York Post and Daily Mail, and it's starting to make its rounds everywhere. Where do you think this train stops?
I think we may have plateaued at this point. I told myself that last night. I don't think this is going to be a long burning fire, no pun intended. But I would like, obviously, as much exposure as possible, because whether it be somebody criticizing me or somebody in my corner, that's all exposure, and that's really what I need at this point. Like I said, it's weird. People like rallying behind somebody that can overcome adversity. And like I said, with the accessibility of all these incredible athletes doing these incredible moves, that it really kind of takes an accident to get this notoriety. I mean, look at Stone Cold when he broke his neck. Like, he came back hotter than ever. Look at Seth Rollins when he hurt his knee. He came back like a superstar. It's really weird, and it's a shame that it comes down to that. But I think that has to do with the psychology of you never really appreciate something until it's gone.
Very true.
So I would like this fire to burn for a long time and continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. A goal personally, if this makes CNN, incredible. If this makes Yahoo, incredible. If as silly as it sounds, I'm hoping that it reaches like Tosh.0.
Honestly, at this point, it just might, because you gotta remember, this is probably like, you know, probably spot of the year, you know, for death, you know. So at the end of the day, right, I'm sure this might actually make Tosh.0.
Hey, I mean, it might. I don't know how to go about doing that without submitting it myself, which I absolutely refuse to do. So if anybody wants to submit this video anywhere, please feel free. Like, I think that'd be really cool, you know? Like, I'm constantly looking at the positive side of things. And like I said, preventing this from happening to someone else, amazing. Exposure for myself, incredible. I've seen a growth in my Instagram. Like, I've gained over 1,000 followers in the past 2 days. That doesn't mean anything in the long run. That doesn't mean anything to a veteran. The way I look at it is, that's now 1,000 people that know my name, that are going to follow me on this journey. That's 1,000 people that will potentially buy a ticket, 1,000 people that will potentially buy a t-shirt. Either way, it's all good things. So I hope this fire keeps burning. But like I said, I'm not really, I know, it's funny because I kind of expected this, but I didn't. You know, I wanted to be like realistic about it. I'm very fortunate that it took off the way it did. That's just the power of the internet.
Most definitely. Because the internet is a beast, and she keeps on rolling with or without you. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you definitely are going viral, and it's been, obviously, you know, we definitely want to make sure you're okay, especially dealing with all that. But hey, if you gain just some more followers, you never know. And at the end of the day, we all do this for the fans, right?
For sure. Also, one thing that really is entertaining is I got a phone call from my buddy from Chicago. He was like, "Dude, I just ran the Castro and we were talking about your video and checking in on you." And some random guy was like, "Are you talking about that guy that did that 450?" So like random people that don't even know me or like have seen it, and like I get messages like, "Oh, I was at Starbucks and these kids were talking about the video," and like that is the most incredible thing. Like, it's one thing to be trending on like wrestling sites, but to
Right.
have people talking about it in daily life is incredible. It's mind blowing.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. That's really crazy. But honestly, you know, again, we are glad you are vertical and breathing and with us still. And I hope that you have a speedy recovery and we can see you in the ring again, because I've seen you over all these years and you've never disappointed. So let's hopefully we can get you back out there for a little bit more. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut to a commercial real quick. Definitely stick with us, as the Chris Carnage Show will be right back.
Hey fans, here at Podcast City Network, we have a lot of great shows on all of our great social media outlets. PodcastCity.net.
Facebook.com/Podcast City Network. Hit that thumbs up. You can send a tweet to Podcast City Network on Twitter at Podcast City Net.
Only on Podcast City Network.
All right,
What?
we are back, but definitely, again, we want to thank you, Shawn Phoenix, so much for coming on. If you like anything you'd like to plug or throw out there?
I've talked about it so many times. If you could give me a follow on my social media, that's great. It means the world to me. I have been interacting with everybody that messages me. My username is Shawn X Phoenix. That's X before Shawn, X before Phoenix. I also use this opportunity to own a pro wrestling tee store now, and it would really help me out. I've been out of work since October. If you could buy a t-shirt, once again, my username on there is Shawn X Phoenix, and you can actually see I made a t-shirt with my actual x-ray on it. Broken skull, everything. Ironically, the name of the show I got hurt on was Unbreakable. So we took the poster graphic, we slapped it on top of on my x-ray. The back of my shirt, there's another skull. It's a front-facing skull. Has all the injuries that I walked away from. And that seems to be a big hit with everyone. It's one thing I thought it was cool. I thought of this in the hospital. I'm like, this is really cool. But to have other fans think it's cool, that means the world to me. So if anybody could if you're interested, please, that'd be awesome. Like I said, give me a follow, buy a t-shirt. Really helps me out, put some food on my plate.
Most definitely. So definitely make sure that you go buy yourself a t-shirt. And honestly, I think I'm going to go ahead and buy me another one, because I already got one from you. Meant to wear it today, but, you know, I'm 4 kids deep now, so, you know, I had a little one puke on it, but,
Oh, no.
you know, it happens, but it'll be worn with pride. But again, thank you for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. And again, thank you, and we hope you have a speedy recovery.
Thank you for having me, buddy.
Most definitely. Man, I tell you what, nice crazy show that we're having here tonight. It's been a fun time, all kinds of good stuff going on. Great talk with Shawn Phoenix, and, you know, really hope he has a speedy recovery, because I couldn't imagine cracking my skull. I know I had my own spinal injury where I ended up twisting a couple vertebrae and wedged another, and, you know, that stuff gets pretty bad. But it's good to know that he's good and vertical. But we're going to go ahead and take this time, and we're going to switch gears over to a little bit of coverage of WWE. I know a lot of people have their own viewpoints when it comes to WWE and everything going on with it, but I tell you what, it's been a crazy year for WWE. And we're gonna go ahead and look down from start of the year in January. Man, January. It seems so long ago already, and people don't even realize. And it's just crazy. I tell you what, we had started out way back with Ronda Rousey actually making her debut, which led into a series of matches and her actually becoming Raw Women's Champion. So that's pretty crazy. But, you know, what's funny is that I called way back at WrestleMania 31 that she was going to make this move. All I said is it's going to take her losing that title once, and she's going to make the move. And sure enough, she has. So pretty crazy that she's made that move, and now we get to enjoy her week to week. Some people like her wrestling. Some people don't. You know, at the end of the day, though, it's what's best for business. Am I right? So something else that really wasn't best for business was Nia Jax breaking Becky Lynch's face. Punched her right in the face during a segment on Raw when the SmackDown women's roster went ahead and literally invaded Raw, and she ended up catching one right across the old bridge. So, that sucks, and she's been was away from action for a while until TLC, which ended with Asuka raising the title and a little bit of Ronda Rousey interference. So, that was what that was, but something that was not quite as cool and something that was a very sad moment for WWE was Roman Reigns announcing that his leukemia had returned. Very sad. Hope he has his speedy recovery as well. In response, though, he was forced to relinquish the WWE Universal title, and now it's back on Brock Lesnar, who all year has done Brock Lesnar things. Had a crazy match, though, at the Greatest Royal Rumble against Roman Reigns for the title in a steel cage match, and it's just craziness, the kind of things that they keep throwing Brock Lesnar in, and it just ends up being the same thing, night in, night out, nothing new, nothing stellar, Suplex City, Suplex City, Suplex City, Suplex City, and it's ridiculous. So, but something that wasn't ridiculous was the return of Daniel Bryan, and not just the return, but now the heel turn, which is just for some a little fickle, but it has nonetheless been quite entertaining, and what was great is that when he actually wrestled Brock Lesnar for the championship, champion versus champion, it actually ended up being a really stellar match. I loved how it was worked, a lot of great psychology, especially for the size differential between the two competitors, that it was able to be believable, because Brock Lesnar honestly is not all that believable anymore. He's nothing but a machine that goes in and robots his way through a match, and it's honestly, in my opinion, kind of pitiful. But something that wasn't pitiful was a interesting angle when they actually brought back the Shield. That was definitely entertaining. But when they brought back the Shield, obviously, not too long into that, we had Roman Reigns come out and announce his return of leukemia. And then after that, Dean Ambrose turned on what was left of the Shield and the memory of Roman Reigns and on Seth Rollins and things of that nature, which was not bad and has produced some more interesting angles out of Dean Ambrose, but I feel still has not reached a point where I think it's going to be continually viable, just because this is going to get stale real fast, like most WWE storylines have been for the past couple of years. But one thing they end up always doing when they have things start going stale is, hey, let's bring back an old vet to have one more good match. And Shawn Michaels ended up being one of those candidates and returned at WWE Crown Jewel to tag with Triple H against the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane, which actually ended up being an extremely epic match that honestly I think will be remembered for a long time. A lot of great spots, a lot of great psychology from four of the longest tenured, I feel like at this point, wrestlers that there was, and Shawn Michaels making his return, that, man, they really were able to go out and tell a great story. But part of Crown Jewel is part of a larger strategy by WWE, which has more recently been implemented, is the fact that they're now doing pay-per-views more internationally. You start now seeing pay-per-views being done in Australia and in the Middle East. And it's quite interesting that they're taking this approach, especially with certain countries such as Saudi Arabia, where there was a lot of protests of them doing the event, the Greatest Royal Rumble, which was won by none other than Braun Strowman. Now, another sad note that had happened, though, was the retirement of Paige. She ended up going out with an injury, came back and was re-injured permanently at a house show when Sasha Banks did a running knee into the corner and actually hit her in the back, which re-aggravated her injury. Of course, though, they were able to retain her and have her become WWE SmackDown general manager, which I felt she did a great job filling that role. But at the end of the day, we ended up having the McMahons and Triple H come out recently to retake over WWE. So who knows what that's really going to end up leading into. But suffice to say, I don't have my hopes set too high, but I could see where a lot of great things could come out of it if run properly, because I have said for the longest of times, if anybody knows me, that Vince McMahon has a mindset for what wrestling was in the 80s and 90s. However, Triple H has the mindset for what it should be now. And Triple H has done a wonderful job with NXT and has been able to foster great talent with great storylines and be able to get such great fanfare to where most WWE specials have outperformed those weekends' WWE pay-per-views, to the point that I can't honestly think of a single pay-per-view that was able to do better than the NXT show before it. So hats off to you, Triple H. You've definitely been making it happen. Hopefully Vince McMahon eventually will step aside and be able to let you take over so we can have a much better product than what we've been able to experience recently. But another high point in the year, though, going all the way back to the Royal Rumble, was Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka winning the Royal Rumble. So that was pretty entertaining as well, and was really enjoyable to see two international superstars be able to come in and win that match, which has been very historic and has set off the careers of many, many wrestlers, including the likes of Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and helped Triple H regain his ground when he came back from his quadriceps injury and things of that nature. But in closing for our WWE 2018 year in review, high points and low points, another high point, yet low point in my opinion, was WWE Evolution. Now, it's not the fact that it was an all-women's pay-per-view. That was the great part. You have all of these great, talented women, current and past, and some from the international scene come in for this show that was supposed to be groundbreaking on so many levels. However, in the lead-up, you had a bunch of different variables that ended up entering into this situation that ended up dictating a lot of how that pay-per-view played out, including the change of a lot of the matches that were supposed to happen. And then the pay-per-view itself was kind of dead on arrival. So there was some good points here and there in those matches, but overall it was did not live up to the hype that it was perceived to be. So with that, that's our WWE 2018 year in review. But again, none of this can be made possible without the likes of our great sponsors, such as Sports Sanity Custom, located in downtown DeLand, Florida. Definitely make sure that you hop on over to their website, sportssanitycustom.com, and check out all their great offerings for all of your apparel and party needs. And I tell you what, they do a great job and have made all of our Podcast City Network shirts and party supplies, and they have done a wonderful job, and we are very pleased to be with them. Also, Atlantic Sounds in Daytona Beach, Florida. Definitely hop on over there and check out their great assortment of different vinyls and CD options and their vast array of different posters and events that they like to hold. So definitely go and check them out. Atlantic Sounds in Daytona Beach, Florida. And, of course, Kentucky Zone Wrestling. Definitely go and check them out on Facebook. And they have a lot of big things happening with them soon, but obviously, so definitely go and check out Kentucky Zone Wrestling. And, of course, our longest-standing City Limits Tap Room located in DeLand, Florida, and also is the home of Draft Day and our one-year anniversary show. I tell you what, that one-year anniversary show is going to be a great time. Definitely need to make sure that you come join us January 26, 2019 from 2 to midnight, as we will be going live, recorded with many of our shows, and we'll be able to pull in a lot of the fans to come join us and sit down for some interviews and get their viewpoints on not only our shows, but just in general, because I know I have a lot of questions for them. So hopefully we'll be able to see you down there and you can share in that with us. We're going to have drink specials, food specials. Craig Thompson Project's going to come in and be playing. It's going to be a really great time. $8 cover, again, from 2 to midnight, January 26, 2019 at City Limits Tap Room in DeLand, Florida. So definitely make sure that you join us for that. It's going to be amazing. So I tell you, it's been a crazy, crazy day. We had Shawn Phoenix on, such a great person to talk to. Glad he's recovering from his injury wonderfully, and that he's not going to hopefully have any long-lasting effects except maybe a little bit of deafness in one ear, but you know, if that's all he walks away with, that's wonderful, just because that could have turned out so much worse. So again, great that we had him on. Thank you for coming on, and we hope to talk to you again soon. So, man, I guess we're getting near the end of our show, but one thing that we definitely need to talk about is Podcast City Network as a whole, because we have a lot of great things that are going to be happening in the upcoming year. We've been putting in a lot of hard work over the past year now to make this the best product that we can and bring you the best interviews, the best shows, and now the best live events with our upcoming 1-year anniversary show. So definitely check out what we're doing. Go over to podcastcity.net. Check out everything we have going on. Go on to Twitter at podcastcitynet. Give us a follow. Give us a tweet. Send us anything. We love talking to the people. So hit us up or go on to facebook.com at Podcast City Network and look us up. Give us a like. Give us a share. Give us a comment. Show us that you love us, because we love you too. So also you can check out Chris Carnage at Facebook at /Chris Carnage Official, or on Twitter at Planet Carnage. Go give us a like. Go give us a follow. Check out everything we have going on, and make sure to tune back in for the Chris Carnage Show, as we will be coming back stronger than ever week to week to give you some of the cutting edge wrestling news, music news, and anything else I feel like talking about, because I'm Chris Carnage and that's just how I do it. So that's just how it is. Thank you for joining us. It's been a wonderful time. Make sure to check back and watch out for any upcoming episodes and news concerning not only the Chris Carnage Show, but Podcast City Network. Again, have a happy holiday and good night.
Hey, man, you're listening to The Chris Carnage Show.